By default, Elements have a transparent background, so if you give the body of the page a background color, every element in the page will use the same color as its background, unless you give it a background color of its own. In this lesson, I'll show you how to apply both solid background colors and colors with alpha transparency. The technique is basically the same, but you need to provide a fallback for older browsers when using colors with alpha transparency. In the Pacific Highway case study, I want to add a subtle blue background to the body of the page. So I've got highway.css selected in the CSS designer, then select the body selector, and in the properties pane, background and background color. I've already chosen a color, so I'm going to type it in directly. It's hash F4FAFF. And that gives it a very subtle blue background. But I want this blue background to appear only on the left and on the right when the page is viewed on a large screen. All the page content is inside a div that's got the ID wrapper, so I can give that a different background color. So let's find the wrapper ID. There it is in the selectors pane. I'm just going to open the color picker and I'm going to zoom that slider right up there to the top left to white. Then I'm going to make sure that I've select hexadecimal. That's important for older browsers, and then just click away, and it looks as though I've overwritten that blue background. But if I get rid of the panels for a moment by pressing F4, you can see that that blue background is still there on the left and on the right. But everything inside the wrapper now inherits its background color. So adding solid background colors is very simple. It's just a question of setting the background color property. What I want to do now is to show you how to set a semi-transparent background or a translucent background. I'm going to open translucent_background.html. You can find a copy of this file in the folder for this lesson in the basic page layout folder of the course assets. Let's just bring back the panels by pressing F4. What I've already done, I've created the styles in the head of the page. So if I select that style there in the CSS designer, you can see that there is the description. That's the ID I've given to this little div here. And if I select background, you can see I've already set the background color to white using hexadecimal. I want to change this to a translucent background so that you can see some of the yachts in Monte Carlo Harbour through that background. So I'm going to open the color picker by clicking the color box and then changing to RGBA. That gives alpha transparency, and then I'm going to move the alpha slider, it's the one on the right here, down until I've got about 80% alpha transparency. That should be 0.80 down here. Now, because it's important to set a fallback for older browsers, what I'm going to do is copy the value that's in that field. I'm going to copy it to my clipboard using keyboard shortcut. Then I'm going to switch back to hex. And hex or hexadecimal doesn't support alpha transparency, so even though the alpha slider is down here, this is solid white. And I'm just going to click away, and then I'm going to select the description selector and right click, go to code. This opens the description style rule in split view. There's my background color, FFFFF. What I need to do is to click at the end of that value, insert a new line, and then I'm going to use the background shorthand property and then just paste the value that I copied from the color picker and finish that line with a semicolon. And if I click into design view, you can see that I've now got that semi-transparent, that translucent background there. So what will happen is that browsers will first apply this background color of solid white, but if the browser supports RGBA, alpha transparency, this second style declaration here will override it. So in modern browsers, we'll get this semi-transparent background. But in older browsers, including Internet Explorer 8, we'll get the solid white background. And if you didn't put this previous line in here, older browsers would show no background whatsoever, so this text would be completely illegible. So, when using a background color with alpha transparency, set the amount of transparency you want in the color picker, copy the value to your clipboard, and reset background color to a hexadecimal value. Then go to the code and add the background shorthand property and paste in your RGBA color. This keeps both modern and older browsers happy.